Hey, Mr. Fusco, the meeting is yours.
Thank you, Mary. Welcome to the, what is this, November ECI committee meeting. I call this meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first action tonight will be a motion to approve the minutes from the October meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Lewis Campbell.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McBain. Any notes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye, or raise your hand. All right, that was unanimous. So we can move forward. That is all right. We're going to go to our items recommended for work session. There are two tonight. There is a student representative update and a program of studies update for 23-24. So I'm looking forward to these two items, and I'll turn it over to Pam. No, who are we turning it over to tonight?
I'll start.
All right, Dr. Wall.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, tonight we are really excited to share some new courses that we are really interested in presenting. We think they're going to be hopefully well received. And those courses are recommended for the 23-24 school year. But before we jump into that, I just want to make sure on the agenda, do you want to have the student rep update first, or do you want to do program of studies?
Why don't we ask the student rep?
Okay, you're done. So what would you like to do?
I can go first.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the feedback on the current grade weighting system. And I've heard back from like teachers and students, and I've heard a mix of both good and bad. A lot of students have had concerns about what the 60% test part is going to do on their grades, and how the homework specifically for math and science classes and the language classes, because we see that homework tends to be very important in those classes, but we aren't receiving as much weight for those since it's only 10%. And also I wanted to talk about the Cultural Proficiency and Equity Student Ambassadors program at our school. And if you watched the morning shows at North Penn last week, we were on that and we were talking about how North Penn has become a no place for hate school. And I think that it's really important that people know that we are a no place for hate.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we were really excited when your school, one of 5 last year, became a no place for hate school. So congratulations. And I know that this year we're hoping to have all 18 schools join with no place for hate. The Student Ambassadors program has been really awesome. And I know you've been a leader in that program. I know you get a lot of shout outs from the person who started it. So keep up the good work. And I also just want to acknowledge the feedback from the homework and assessment feedback that you shared with us. I think it's really important to hear from our students, teachers, and staff, and that's something that we've been continuing to talk about. We've heard some of that feedback as well on our end, and we certainly want to make sure that there are opportunities, some formative assessments and things that happen along the way so that you don't just have homework or a test. But we really appreciate that, and everybody on this call, Mr. Nicholson, Dr. Hart, and I in particular, we'll continue to have those conversations and make sure that we can, continue to get your feedback. I just saw Anaf the other day, and he mentioned, maybe doing the survey again. And that's something that we're absolutely open to. So thank you for your report. Greatly appreciate it.
Actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, Jordanos, because I was actually going to bring it up at New Business, which is because I have been hearing from parents. And I'm concerned because what I've been hearing is some inconsistencies. And I think it's fair that, we've changed the expectations for assessment at this level, at this very high level. And there's a transition that we're going through right now, where I know that some teachers have had a bit of a difficult time with not being able to give an assessment, say before or after a holiday. I know that's pushed some off. I know that the weighting has been a challenge for some, but the feedback that I've been hearing from some folks is there are some teachers that are creating an other category. So homework is 10%, and then 90% is essentially tests and quizzes, which is the only thing that makes up other. I have also heard of just today, a friend reached out about a situation where a student took a test, and it was the only test that was given for the entire marking period, and it counted for 60% of the grade. Now, I understand this is a transition, but the purpose of addressing assessment was to alleviate some of the reliance on a heavy assessment being the driver of a grade, right? So I'm afraid that what the feedback that I'm getting seems to really run counter to what it is we're trying to accomplish here, right? If 90% of the student's grade is going to be tests and quizzes, or if teachers are calling things a quiz instead of a test because they can give a quiz before a holiday but not a test, or if there's only one assessment being given in a marking period, it should not count for 60% of the grade. That is not in line with the thinking of the changes that we were proposing here. And like I said, I want to give the teachers, especially, in the high school, leeway to figure this out, because we have kind of upset some apple carts with our insistence on making these changes. But I would feel a lot better about this if I felt as though that the purpose were being honored, which is to try to take and find other ways of assessing a student's ability to understand and demonstrate understanding, whether they've learned the content. And I'm afraid that right now, most of the feedback I'm getting seems to be the exact opposite direction, which is that there's now a much heavier reliance because we're not doing the performance assessments yet. And because there isn't, a quite as clear an understanding as, well, all right, homework's 10%, then what exactly is constituting that other 90%? And I would be curious to know what kind of direction they're being given on that, given the fact that we know that the performance assessment piece isn't coming to at least until after the Christmas holiday and likely after that. So what is the expectation that students should have? Is it different from math and science? Because it seems to me a lot of feedback is math and science is 90% other, 10% homework, and the other is mostly assessment.
Yeah, so for people that I've been talking to and for my own grades and what I've seen in my classrooms, my science and math weighting tends to be 90 and then 10, like what you talked about. And I think that goes for a lot of people. Yeah.
Is that something that's understood to be like departmentally the practice? Is that something that came from administration? Is it something that people are doing in lieu of better direction from us, from administration, on what to do while we're waiting for the performance assessment piece? Like, why is that happening?
Dr. Hart, I see your hand up, and I also didn't know if Mrs. Dome wants to speak to anything, being the STEM supervisor. Go ahead, Pam, I see your hand.
No, so I mean, Donna can definitely jump in and provide a little bit more direction regarding STEM classes. So let me take a step back. So we recognize some of the glitches. The one thing that was consistent as we began the year was that homework would be 10%. Because we were making some of these decisions very close to the beginning of the school year, we knew we didn't have great time to do great professional development. We gave teachers sort of the autonomy to say, as long as you have 10%, there's flexibility in the ways in which you want to have the grade for the other 90%. So some have done a 30-60, 10%, others have done points. There's been a kind of a wide range of ways in which teachers have approached that. I think one of the reasons why you see in math, I think the math department, science department have tried to be sort of on the same page so that we're kind of comparing apples to apples, which is why you may see that as well. I mean, one of the things that we will be working on a little bit on the 7th and 8th is really around assessment, around authentic assessment. So we have a nice broad range of the kinds of ways in which students are being assessed in their knowledge of various content areas, but that is a work in progress, at the moment. We did also recognize that there have traditionally been classes where homework comprise a larger percentage of the grade. And we sort of knew there was a possibility that some of the grades would look a little bit differently as a result of that. And so we're trying to work very closely with teachers. I mean, now that we're sort of at the end of the first marking period, we have an opportunity to be able to say kind of where are we? What has worked? What has not? Let's look at grades and where they are today compared to previous years. What are some things that we want to be able to be more intentional about? So feedback, know that we're trying to work really, closely with teachers as well. And it is a broad spread. People have kind of addressed the grading piece slightly differently based on kind of where they've been. And part of that was because we did not feel like we had enough time in the, so close to the opening of school to say we're all doing something completely different. That will feel very differently as we move through the year and get ready for next year. But there are some growing pains at the moment.
Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Fusco. I just wanted to mention too that we're going to hear, as school board directors, as administrators, a lot of stories from folks in the supermarket or as we go about our business. And as a teacher who has had an email from a parent overnight and had to reestablish communication with that parent and discuss a lot of some miscommunications that have happened between what happens in the classroom and then what the student takes and then what the student is thinking about when they get home. There's an awful lot of miscommunication that can happen. Not to say that what we hear isn't a sign that we need to take action, certainly. What I would say is that that's just a sign that we need to communicate a little bit better. And I think that we have a really excellent staff administration here who is definitely willing to communicate, and the student body as well. You're not honest, this is good to hear, because a lot of the time, if you don't let us know, we won't know, right? And so we do need to hear these things too. And just to piggyback on what Dr. Hart said, it is going to be a transition, right? Some educators are coming off of a COVID year where they had to digitize things that they've never digitized before. They're looking at what they've done 3 years past as the last time they were in person for a full year and saying, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to transition this. It's kind of a new era for education. I want to work this and that. And so it is going to have to be a process that we go through. And I do believe that if we communicate through that process, we really are going to find ourselves on the right spot with specific guidelines and ideas that match the things we're trying to teach our kids in different subject areas and in different ways, as evidenced by the really stratified and complex program of studies that we're going to be talking about tonight. So that's really great to hear. And I think that we're in the steps of this process.
Thank you, Mr. McBain. And to be clear, I'm going to say this one more time. I believe the board takes a lot of ownership of this. We are the ones who pushed very hard to say, let's take another look at the way you do assessment. We're the reason this transition is going on, at least a big part of it. So I do say what I say, understanding the role that we've played in this process. But what I would also just implore teachers to do is to, if you're in a situation where you have one assessment and a student doesn't do well, then you really need to give them another opportunity on that assessment. Like, we need to make this work for the kids, right? This is not something to be punitive. It's not something, to weed out. This is something that, we are doing in the interest of finding a multitude of ways to let students demonstrate understanding. And while we're going through this transition period, just to give those kids, some grace as we're allowing you to be flexible to figure these things out. Be flexible with them too, is I guess my message. Be flexible with the kids, as we navigate, figuring out what assessment is going to look like when it is more standardized and when we do have the performance piece in place. Okay. Oh, and I see our esteemed chair has joined us. Hello, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Dr. G. Welcome.
Mr. Fusco, I was glad to hear kind of the conversation about assessment, and I was wondering if your Donna had a chance to chime in terms of her experience or what she's hearing Did she already get to chime in?
Jordanis, it was Jordanis's report that sparked the conversation. Yeah.
Of course. Jordanis, we're going to turn the committee over to you.
Yeah, you're gonna be
I echo what I heard though at the end with Mr. Fusco, and I did have a question about us talking about kind of that second chance learning and what our current practice is as it relates to students being given an opportunity to say retake an assessment or do test corrections or however it is that you approach that. What is that? What does that look like in terms of a like standard across secondary?
I'll just jump in and say that, you know, right now, I wouldn't say there's a standard across every single department, but a lot of departments kind of have been talking about this. And I know in the math department, they've kind of been taking the lead. So Donna, do you want to share a little bit about what the math department has found or what they've been doing? Because this is definitely conversations we're continuing to have so that we can move in this direction. But we have a group that's already on it. So Mrs. Dome.
Yes, I can only speak briefly to it. I don't have it exactly in front of me, but I know just speaking to my departments, that's not saying that others aren't on board as well. But math and science specifically have been working together tirelessly throughout this first marking period to create a second chance learning policy that they'll be presenting to students in the second marking period. So in the second marking period and then throughout the rest of the year. I don't have the exact details of it, but they will be presented next Thursday, the 10th, begins the second marking period. So they will be presenting it and working with students on those opportunities. So I'm very excited because it's consistent among both departments and they worked a lot together and they're going to be presenting and gathering the data and providing those opportunities for kids.
I'd love to hear more about that once you know, you've had a chance, I think maybe to put that on next, the next ECI agenda would be good because it kind of is a reflection of as we continue to move forward. Disappointed I missed your Jordanis's report because it seems like it was really great. So where are we, Mr. Fusco?
So we are at the program of studies.
Okay. So who will be giving that?
So Dr. I'm just going to welcome Dr. Hart and some others. Mr. Nicholson is on with us this evening. I'm sorry. Do we have Dr. Hart, our Director of Curriculum and Equity, presenting tonight with Mr. Nicholson, our Administrator of Secondary Ed and Renovation, Mrs. Donna Dome, our STEM Supervisor at the secondary level, Jackie Gianmarco, our Supervisor of Professional Development and Special Content Areas, and also joining us, Ms. Christine Peterson, our Department Chair for Business at North Penn High School. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hart so that they can tell you about the new courses they'd like to recommend for next school year.
All right. Before I jump into the program of study, I just wanted to share just a couple quick curriculum highlights of just some things that have happened recently, just to kind of keep you abreast. So last week, we had our professional development when students were offered Diwali. In observance of Diwali, we had an all-day professional development session for all staff that really focused on social emotional well-being and learning. We spent a lot of time over the past few months recognizing that students have needed sort of social emotional well-being, and so have our staff. And we got a lot of feedback, and we really wanted to allocate time to really address those needs. So Jackie and team did an amazing job kind of organizing the professional development session. There were 88 sessions that were offered in the morning, and they fell into 3 buckets. One was really around just kind of your well-being. So there were athletic activity, there was yoga, there were HIIT sessions, there were mindfulness sessions. Another one of the buckets was really around providing strategies that we can use with students to help address their social emotional well-being. And one of the really popular sessions that we know we're going to kind of continue trying to use, because not everyone was able to attend, was really around addressing anxiety of our students. And then the third bucket was really around instructional practices that people may not feel as comfortable with. It may be causing a little bit of stress. And so we offer offered some of those sessions as well. So some sessions around needs around special education. I facilitated with Dr. Hall a session around gender with the intent of just trying to expand knowledge so that people feel comfortable in the work as well. So we had morning sessions, and after lunch, teachers got back together to kind of share what it is that they learned in the morning session, and then in the afternoon had an opportunity to kind of engage in kind of what they needed as well. Very, very positive feedback. And one of our goals was not just to have one really great day, but to take kernels of what happened on that day and kind of incorporate it into our work so that we still feel great in a week or two, in a month from now as well. So I wanted to give Jackie and her team a really big shout out because it was a huge undertaking, did a really great job. I will also say while we had outside presenters, we had a lot of our own staff who presented as well. And I think it's amazing to be able to see people's expertise kind of out of what we sort of traditionally know them. So it was really well done. We also had an evening of community conversations with really focusing on this notion of belonging. So Dr. Waters, Megan McGee-Himes and I, and then Jim Galante actually presented, and we really focused on what belonging looks like in our schools. So from a district lens, a school-based lens, and then Jim Galante spent a lot of time talking about Northbridge because we recognize that people don't really have a good sense of the program that's there, the students for whom it serves, and we had a really interesting conversations. I think it was really appreciated and well received, and we look forward to doing some additional conversations in the weeks and months to come. So having shared that, I'd love to transition in to the program of study. So Ms. Fakes, do we want to share the slides? All right, great. So we're delighted to be here this evening to share proposed additions and changes to the program of study for the 23-24 school year. And you can see the four of us will be presenting throughout this presentation. Next slide, please. So I always like to begin with our guiding principles of kind of our why we've made some of the choices we've made to create new courses or to make some changes in existing courses. We want to make sure that everything that we do really ensures high expectations for our students. We, like you, are committed to expanding opportunities and increasing access for all of our students. And you'll see some of that in the presentation tonight. We also know that if we're going to increase access and rigor, we want to also be able to balance that with support. It's not enough just to open a door and say walk through, but we want to make sure you have the tools to be able to participate in the class and do really well as well. And finally, we want to make sure that the courses that are offered provide a really strong foundation for college and career readiness. So next slide, please. So we have a couple of just proposed course changes. Turning it over to you, Mrs. Dome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hart. This really isn't a specific change. It really is just the umbrella of where this will fall. Well over 10 years ago, Computer Science A and a minor in computer programming were brought to North Penn High School, so AP Computer Science A. And in recent years, the engineering department has worked tirelessly to bring more computer science to our students and to our school with the addition of 3 additional courses of computer science principles, cybersecurity, and spatial computing. Currently, computer science courses are falling under the math umbrella, whereas the majority of them are also under the engineering umbrella. And it is kind of hard right now in the program of studies. If a student were like, if this was a student's thing for them to find, is there a computer science pathway? And yes, there is, but it's kind of in several places and it's piecemeal. I'm looking at bringing it all together under the technology and engineering department so that it is an engineering pathway as well. The one key thing there is to remember, not looking to take away credit from anything. The computer science courses of AP Computer Science Principles, Computer Science A, and Computer Programming will still continue to offer math credit. So nothing's being changed there. So it's just really, in a way, kind of cleaning this up a little bit and really dedicating a pathway in the engineering department for computer science. So that's what, because we're looking to expand it as well. I think we'll be coming back to you next year with a few more courses, but it's just putting it under that umbrella. So that's the first thing with computer science. Next slide. This diagram just kind of shows you our technology and engineering education department, the things that we currently offer, which we're extremely proud of, and just wanted to offer that computer science just to see that pathway there as well. Next slide. I'll hand it over to Jackie.
Thank you. Again, similar to Donna's last change, this is a minor adjustment. So last year we added Guitar Lab, and this is really just a course name change from Guitar Lab to Guitar Lab 1, which will relate to later on. I'll talk to you a little bit more about Guitar Lab 2, but really this was an entry point for many students to kind of enter the music program at the high school level, and so we're looking to continue to expand and meet the needs of our students. So we would just be changing the name here. Everything else would remain the same. And then similarly, music production. So as we've been reviewing the music curriculum, really looking at our current curriculum, updating it. We've looked at technology that's being used, course content, and adjusting it to meet the needs of our students. And so we previously had audio engineering, and so we're kind of making this shift to music production, again, to kind of appeal to a broader audience of our students. Many students are looking to kind of pursue this in college and beyond high school. So just looking to ensure that the title that best reflects the curriculum that is being taught.
All right. Thank you, Jackie and Donna. So now we'd like to transition and talk about a couple proposed additions to the course offering. So the first, which we've talked a little bit about the year that I've been in this role, I'm excited to share that we're proposing American Sign Language class level 1. And we are hoping to introduce this new level and then each year kind of level up as we're moving forward. The course will be considered a world language elective credit for students, and we'll be offering it at the high school. We talked a little bit in our conversations over the past year or so about the rationale of why it would be really important to offer this course. And we see that it serves as a predominant language of the deaf community in the United States. And it's a completed organized visual language that is expressed both by manual and non-manual features. And it'd be a wonderful way to have students kind of think about language from a different perspective. The intent is to teach some basic signs and hand parameters of American Sign Language. And students will have an opportunity to practice, comprehension, signing, and basic expressive and receptive skills. One of the things that I do want to share is that we, hopefully, if this is approved, we will spend some time really trying to find the just right teacher. We don't have someone who's currently on staff who will be teaching the class, so it's something that we've already begun doing some investigative work with the expectation that we will be able to offer it, but it's something that I just want to be kind of transparent on the upfront that we'll definitely be looking for a teacher once it's approved.
All right, I believe I'm up, and obviously pinch hitting here for Mrs. Early, so I'm certainly not Rachel. I hope to do as half a good a job as she would in presenting these courses that she's been working so hard with our high school social studies department on. The first of 2 courses that we're proposing in the social studies department as electives is performance psychology. So we are really excited about this. This would be a semester course. We would offer this at both the 5.0 and the honors level for students in 11th and 12th grade without any other prerequisites other than the grade level. And that would be based on the content, the reasoning for the grade level prerequisite. We're really excited about this, as I said, and no, this isn't just about athletics, but you're all very smart people. I'll let you read through this here, but really looking at any pursuit that students have and learning about how and what psychological perspectives kind of play into performance, whether it be academic, sports, creative pursuits, what have you. The very last sentence I think is really important. Practical methods students can use before, during, and after performances to handle adversity, anxiety, and stress. So there has been quite a bit of interest in this from students over the years. We've taken some time to put this together and put together what the curriculum could look like for this. And we're excited to bring this before the committee this evening for possible launch in the 23-24 school year. The second one in social studies, an elective course, would be international relations. This would be a full year dual enrollment option through the University of Pittsburgh, the college and high school program. So again, elective course, full year course in grades 11 and 12. This would be at the honors level, again, based on the content and based on the rigor that the University of Pittsburgh put forward in their syllabi for the course. We feel it's appropriate to be at the 6.0 level. And again, if this is a course that is ultimately given the go-ahead for next school year, we are going through the process right now of having an instructor approved through the University of Pittsburgh, but that process has not played out yet. So if the committee and the board so wishes and approves this course for next year, we would still need to ensure that one of our staff members is approved by Pitt, but we expect that to happen as we move forward. So international relations, again, I won't read the entire course description, but as our world becomes more and more globalized, our society, our political climate, and economy, we feel it's very important as we see students continuing to go on to major in international relations, major in political science, that we kind of adapt and add some electives at North Penn High School that would cover the increased student interest in this. So we're very happy about this, excited to expand not only our dual enrollment, but really meet the needs of what we've seen from students as something they're interested in after high school, something we can bring to high school and get them high school and college credit at the same time. With that, I believe I'm handing it back to Mrs. Dome.
Yes. And I want to thank also Mrs. Christine Peterson, our business department chair, who's with us tonight, in case there are any questions about the next two coming up. The business department has proposed two additional courses to their program. This first one here being Introduction to Hospitality Management as a business elective for the semester. And you can see I'm just really excited about the college and career readiness focus that is in this as well. So that's the first course that the business department would like to propose. And next slide. Second one is financial applications with technology as both a business elective and math elective, full year course at the 5.0 level with the completion of Algebra 1 as the prerequisite. So you can see in the course description there of what they will focus on. And again, with college and career readiness at the forefront. Next slide goes to our math department, that we have a teacher who has been approved through Montgomery County Community College to provide us with a dual enrollment opportunity of math applications. So we're adding this as a math elective for grades 11 and 12, where they're able to earn dual credit, looking at the course description and the learning outcomes. Just a completion of Algebra 2 at any level is a prerequisite for the course. And you can see there in the course description the different topics that they will be hitting in the math applications course. We're very excited. We have in the math department now, we have one at an AP level, and then we have one that Montgomery County Community College is able to offer us as well. So very excited to have both sides. Yes.
About this one. So if I am a student who goes to Montgomery County Community College following high school, would this be the first math course I would take? So would this be, for those who are going to go to Montco, would this be kind of the first math course I would take? Is this the introductory math course, the like math? I don't know what the first math is that they take at Montco.
I am not 100% sure on that. I do have the syllabus in front of me. It does have previous course requirements that, so I'm not 100% sure, but I can find out.
I see Dr. Bauer's hand up.
Yes, so they do take, Montco requires placement tests. So this is an entry-level course that students could take. But for example, if a student has prerequisite skills for Calc 2, they may place into Calc 2. But it is, Dr. G, to your question, absolutely could be the first course they take, depending where they are.
Thank you.
Next slide.
Okay, and then to follow up on my previous slide about changing the course title for Guitar Lab, last year we added Guitar Lab, and we were not really sure about, how many students would be interested or if the course would run at all. Well, it was a huge success. We have 11 sections of Guitar Lab this year, which was huge. And so really, it necessitates us to kind of meet those needs and where our students are, and hopefully add Guitar Lab 2 to allow them to continue to progress in that course. And again, just allowing students to kind of have that entry point into the music program at the high school level, which, a lot of our music students in the music program kind of grow up through the music program. It's a very strong program, but really excited to continue to be able to offer these opportunities and expand on our offerings. So Guitar Lab 1 would be a prerequisite or a recommendation from a North Penn music teacher, just to ensure that students could kind of come into this intermediate level Guitar Lab course and be successful. And I think that's it.
So just a quick comment that just like thrilled that each year we're continuing to look at the program of studies critically, look for opportunities to consolidate sections, because I think you saw the combination of consolidating some sections as well as adding dual enrollment, adding courses that are outside of the box or different, the ASL course. I'm just like thrilled to see this. I'm wondering how many dual enrollment courses we have. I mean, I feel like a few years ago we were like, oh, we have a few in dual enrollment courses, and it just feels like it's growing so quickly that it's just like thrilling to really watch. I am wondering how many we're at this point in terms of dual enrollment and what the response has been from kids. Like when I hear you say that like 11 sections of Guitar 1, I'm like, wow, that's amazing that we have kids that are able to really pursue their true interest. And what I say to people who are like, oh my goodness, your kids go to North Penn, it's such a large school, I always say yes, and my kids can take photography and public speaking, and they can do just about anything they want to do, because as a large school we have the resources and the ability to have all this, such a variety. Not many schools are going to be able to offer American Sign Language. And I just think that's amazing that we're able to do this. So just kudos to like the curriculum departments and the department heads who continue to kind of push the envelope. The business courses are awesome. I mean, even if you're not in business, some of those are like life skills, right? Like taxes and insurance and mortgages and annuities and understanding compound interest and all of that. So, Mr. Nicholson, sign Norm up for that class. We need him to get in that class. But just awesome. So just thank you to all the hard work that goes into, I look forward to the program of studies. I'm geeky about it. It's so exciting for me to see, especially the dual enrollment. I think you all know how important I think that part is, as well as the career readiness. I love the international relations course. I'm sure that Mr. McBean will have something to say about that. So I'm just thrilled and very excited about everything that we just saw in terms of what's being offered. So thank you. And I'd love to hear at some point, I know we don't have that exact answer, although I'm sure Dr. Bauer is probably trying to figure out how many courses now we've added, because I think it's something to be proud of, for sure.
I am looking up the spreadsheet as we speak. So good call.
Well, I'll chime in now then while we're waiting. I think these courses are awesome. I wish that I had gone to North Penn in this era as opposed to another school district that should remain unnamed in the 90s. That international relations course with the focus on political economy is like the thing right now in the political science field. I mean, this is where all the big minds are going towards, and to get some experience with that in high school is really unbelievable. And I really hope that we acknowledge that this is the University of Pittsburgh. It's one of the best institutions in the state that we're working with. That's amazing. Music production, that field is so open now, and students are so inspired by that. You know, you're getting music producers that are getting shout outs on certain tracks now, right? I'd ask my students what Day Trip took it to 10 men, and now I got it. And the people who are writing music and producing it are getting a lot more of a footprint in the field, and that's awesome. Hospitality management, this is something that isn't offered by the North Montco Technical Center, and is going to fit really nicely with what students can learn about this growing field that we're really going to need in Pennsylvania too. So like Dr. G said, I'm just really happy about this, and major applause. Is there anything we can do to help you guys, you know, support the program or get the word out that we're going to need teachers in these fields? Because, you know, if a music producer is out there and wants to, you know, impact the next generation of music, here's a shot. But I'm not sure that that's something they would even know about. Not that I know anybody.
Anybody, I don't know if anybody wants to jump in, if there's, you know, anything that you have in terms of support. I do think for to piggyback on something that Mr. McBain said in terms of getting the word out, I do want to encourage us, because I have two high schoolers, to toot our own horn as it relates to this. And I mean, however that can happen, whether it's in the business classes, through the teachers, they have a captive audience. We just can't assume that the kids are reading this, and I'm sure Urdanis can chime in on this, like how, you know, are kids noticing that there's a new hospitality management course, right? How are we, it's not enough always just to be like, here's the program of studies. I think we have to like highlight the new courses somehow so that we at least kind of get them, you know, out there. Because I don't know that the kids are reading from cover to cover the program of studies. So, and Urdanis, if you want to chime in on the best way in which we could do that, you probably know what we need to do in order to make sure the word gets out.
Yeah, so I would say not a lot of students really go through the program of studies. So I think it would be valuable, since I know that in the high school, they're starting to do class meetings more often now. I know the next one for the junior class is coming up. And I think if they have one when students are starting to choose what classes they want next year, I think if we mention those classes that are coming up at those class meetings, it would be really valuable.
Thank you. Mr. Nicholson?
No, I just want to piggyback on what was just shared there. I absolutely agree. Communication is becoming a little bit easier as we're coming out of the pandemic and able to have these meetings. And I also know if there's one thing that everyone at the high school shuts down for every week, it's mornings on Friday morning. So we'll make sure that word gets out there, especially with these new courses, and get the hype going. So, you know, students know just what it is we have to offer.
And back to the dual enrollment question, just 4 years ago, we had 5 courses. We are up to, with this allotment here, we would be up to 15. And it is not 15 brand new courses. In some cases, it's identifying a course that we already taught that we can align with a course at a local university and get approval for dual enrollment. But we now have several hundred students per year take dual enrollment classes. I can actually tell you that this year there were 2,200 dual enrollment courses enrolled. So Urdanis could take 4 and she would count 4 times, just to make that clear. So it's not 2,200 mutually exclusive kids. It's 2,200 registrations for courses, but we're up to 15 classes for which kids can obtain college credit. I'd be willing to guess that you could go into college with more than a year and a half, 3 semesters worth of credit if you wanted to. So just really exciting stuff. And
I just think that's amazing, Dr. Bauer, and just kudos to you for your leadership, because prior to your role as superintendent, I know that you really pushed that forward as something that we were really wanting to shift as a board. And I'm just so thrilled, because what, you know, people don't know, some people who have maybe little kindergartners out there, is once you have a student that's in college, it's expensive. You know, college is $50,000 a year now. And so if you can take a year off of a student college because they could take dual enrollment courses, you saved their family $50,000 and you have decreased the student debt, which we all know is a huge problem. So it's just a way for us to contribute to that decrease, which is a major issue for many families in our community. So I feel like it's just such a big impact that we're able to make. And I just want to continue to see that dual enrollment grow to be 20 classes that are offered, and 25 classes, because it's just amazing what we can do. So thank you. And I know Mr. Fusco, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, I've been waiting. I am so excited about this that I've decided I'm going to sign while I speak, because this is very personal to me to have that sign language class being offered. I know that that's a difficult task because there's not a lot of curriculum. There's not a lot of people out there who are able to teach this class. I would recommend that if you haven't already talked to a woman, a local community member named Melanie Drosbaugh, that you reach out to her. She works with St. Joseph's University. She knows about this effort and is interested in helping to try to identify somebody to help teach the class. But this is awesome. I mean, it's such a unique offering. So many times in my professional life, people have approached me and said, oh, I want to learn sign language. But there's more to it than just being an interesting language. I mean, it can support English. There's so many connections, multi-modalities. It's extraordinarily inclusive. I know as a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing just how difficult it is for students who are deaf who want to integrate with hearing people. They either have to learn how to speak themselves or read lips, to have the opportunity to have students, learn in the school and have the ability to communicate with these kids is just fabulous. So I want to thank everybody for doing the work in this. I want to thank Melissa Hall as well, because I know that she's been part of your meetings to help, navigate this process. So fantastic, wonderful. Everything is wonderful, not just the sign language class, but in particular how important that was to me specifically. So thank you.
So Mr. Fusco, school code says that a school board member can't be hired by a school district within 6 years of serving. So if you would be willing to backdate a letter 6 years ago, you're hired.
pretty sure that's not going to happen now.
Of course not, of course. But this is a lot of hard work from a lot of people, and you guys are giving us a lot of credit. But I will say that sometimes you guys being so encouraging and strong in your suggestions and recommendations and the vision for the North Penn School District, these are the fruits of that labor. So I appreciate your enthusiasm for what's best for kids. And if given time, I believe this team here can make anything happen. So kudos to all of you as well, because you've been very supportive of this work.
I agree.
Question about the ASL course, Dr. Bauer, Mr. Nicholson. Will ASL as a language receive credit in school as like one of the 2 language courses? Would it or no?
So that currently falls under elective or humanities credit.
Oh, okay.
So it would qualify, certainly. And I believe as long as we continue, as Dr. Hart said, and sharing year 2, year 3, it would qualify with universities as well, because many universities want 3 years of one language. So we have to keep expanding upon it.
And we should be careful about that, because there are a lot of universities that don't accept sign language too. So make sure that students understand that if they're signing up, that it's not the same as Spanish. Right.
Yeah, that was what, that's kind of what I was getting at, that I didn't know one way or the other how universities accepted that, but like, we do want to be clear with students so that, because I think it's really interesting, right? And I think a lot of students could be drawn to it for sure. We also want to make sure that we're clear about what schools are accepting that, and that we educate or do our own research around understanding that, to make sure that our counselors are able to communicate that to students and really advise them as to what they can do. Okay. So next on our agenda, we did our curriculum update, I believe.
Yes.
You know what,
additional,
I don't think we voted on either of these items, did we? To move them to,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
to action.
Um,
Well, I guess we don't have to vote on the representative update, do we?
do we need to
Program of
vote on
studies.
the program of studies to move it forward to action?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to move our program of studies to action?
Yeah, that's so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Fantastic. I know everyone is going to be very excited about this. I love programs. It's like Christmas Day for me, program of studies. It's so exciting. I mean, I love graduation day, but also like the program of studies is really exciting. And then to hear like, I remember when you guys offered the guitar one course, I was like, oh, how do we find a teacher? And how many people are going to sign up for that? And you're like, there's 11 sections. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so additional topics. Are there any additional topics? Okay, and Mr. Gilmer, do we have anyone who wishes to address the committee? Or was it is it Mistakish? I think I see Mistakish.
It's me tonight.
Hi.
Yes, we do have 2 community members who have raised their hands.
Okay, and do you have our timer available?
Mr. McKenna? Mr. McKenna's running timer tonight.
Okay.
Dr. McKenna.
Great, thank you. Did you already read the statement? Okay, let me read the statement. Tonight's meeting is our regularly scheduled committee meeting. In order to meet the requirements of Pennsylvania's Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To ensure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board state their name and municipality. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, our first hand up is Ted Trissler. Ted, I'm going to unmute your mic and allow you to talk, and then you will need to unmute on your end. So you may unmute your mic and state your name and address for the board.
Okay, thank you. Ted Trissler, Hatfield, Pennsylvania, and I am a teacher in North Penn. And I am so excited and so grateful for the group this evening, our board members in particular, for moving our course of study along. I am ecstatic about the hospitality management course. That is my baby. That is my passion. It is a field that is on fire. Whether you are a high school graduate working your way up in that field, or you are an MBA from the Cornell School of Hospitality Management, and you want to go run a big resort out in Las Vegas, there are so many opportunities. According to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, restaurant growth rate is again on fire, as is the need for lodging managers. So thank you so much for this. I know what I'm going to be doing this summer if the full board approves it. So again, I am very, very grateful for that. On an aside, I did want to mention, I do believe the business department, I think we have the most number of dual enrollment courses at North Penn High School. And what's exciting about that is we have 5 courses, and for what it costs for one of those courses, you could literally take all 5 of them and have it come out to about the same amount as you would pay for one course at Gwynedd Mercy University, which is where our dual enrollment is through. So, to your point there, that you could knock out a semester for, again, less than the cost of one course on campus. So really thrilled about that. There is no easy segue, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, and your Adonis did a great job, but wanted to talk a little bit about the 60-30-10 that we're looking at in terms of test assignment and homework. I am not hearing a lot of positive feedback, at least from the professional staff, on those breakdowns. The feeling right now is, there should be some professional discretion to that. Not all students are good test takers, and I don't care if it's, formative summative assessments or whatever we look at for that 60% category, but it puts a lot of weight, particularly for a department such as the business department. If you take a subject like accounting, for example, it is very much hands-on, and you're demonstrating your knowledge, your mastery as you're working on assignments, as you're working on projects. We also don't assign much, if any, homework within our department. So I hope we can go back. I hope we can take a look at the 60-30-10, and I hope that we can, again, allow our professionals to have some discretion in there. So I thank you so much. Again, I thank you to the board and to the committee. Donna, awesome job presenting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Trissler. And just a quick comment, it's so refreshing to have someone call in, have, one of our educators call in with such passion towards our courses, and we're as passionate, as excited as you are about it. I think, Dr. Bowen, we should send pizzas to the business department for having the most dual enrollment courses this year. It was just really nice to hear from a teacher that's so passionate about their work. Your students are very, very lucky to have you. Do we have anyone else for public comment?
Yes,
Dr. G, I'll be sure to send you that bill for that pizza, okay?
Wait, how many business teachers are there?
Yeah, they're a great department. And Dr. Trissler, thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it. Mr. Nicholson will reach out tomorrow regarding some of your feedback on grading.
Okay, our next committee member is Jason Lanier. Jason, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then you need to unmute your mic, state your name and such for the board.
Jason Lanier, Lansdale. Wanted to, first echo some of the things. I think whenever you can take dual enrollment courses, that's a great thing. So kudos on that regard. I mean, it's the more the better. And especially if you can get some of those the fundamentals baseline courses out for college, that's a great way to save money, and also kind of give students a taste of the pressures that are involved with college education. So that's a good thing. Wanted to also kind of drift back to this 60-10-30 or whatever it is, 60-30-10 split or whatever it is, 10% homework and the rest being decided by the teachers. And I mentioned this some time ago when I asked about equity, and I've talked to Dr. Hart and Barr about this quite a bit, but I made this concern back then was, well, the schools which I've read about who did this sort of thing have gone, or who've done this, they're way ahead of us on the timeline. They have gone so far as to eliminate grades altogether. And I wonder if that's our eventual goal. So like if you look at Seattle, has removed A's and F's because they say there's an inequitable distribution of grades at those two levels. In a number of the big cities in California, Oakland, Los Angeles, San Diego, have all done something very similar where they've actually just gotten rid of D's and F's, so nobody can fail. And is that eventually where we're going to go? I mean, it is hit the East Coast. They have it over in New Jersey. A couple schools have adopted the exact same policy. And go back over to the West Coast. Oregon has dropped it altogether. They in fact don't have any grades. And this is all in the name of trying to equalize everything on the back end, as opposed to pushing everybody to do really well. They basically said, well, we're going to remove the hurdles altogether and all the assessments, and now everyone just gets to graduate with what? I'm not sure what you get to graduate with in Oregon. But that's my concern. That's been my concern from the get-go, is where this eventually ends up and how is this beneficial to students. There's sort of the idea of having requirements and not necessarily doing well on everything is okay. I mean, there is a point in which you need to learn from, if you want to call it the hard way or hard knocks or whatever, having some ability to overcome that difficulty and push along is a really important aspect of an adult, and it's important for kids to develop that. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. Do we have any items, additional items for business? Okay, summary of agenda items. I believe we're just moving forward the program of studies. The next regularly scheduled ECI committee meeting is scheduled for December 6th in a virtual format. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. And thank you to all of our presenters.